I animated everything correctly and still it didn't feel cinematic. The problem was not the animation, it was the camera. I made a small Zenitsu cinematic as a study. Just one character, one scene, one attack, that's it. Now to share with you a couple things that I did notice, the difference between animating a cinematic and animating some game assets or anything that doesn't require a scripted scene, let's put it like that. So for game assets, it's pretty simple, right? The camera is neutral. You rarely see zooms or anything happening with the camera, for most games at least. For the most part, if it's a walk, run, sprint cycle, then it must loop. And the focus is to have that be readable from a fixed angle. Now if you look at cinematic, it's a bit different. The focus is more on storytelling than anything else. The focus is on controlling what the viewer sees and the information that is being given through the cinematic. I believe this is probably commonly used on some games that people perceive to be very beautiful, like Blasphemous, for instance. When they make their backgrounds, they make a scenario that looks big. They didn't change the resolution. The resolution is still the same, but the way they drew it gives that feel that the resolution may have changed a little bit. Now the interesting thing about cinematics is that the focus is on revealing and hiding information from the viewer in order to bring focus to what you really want them to see. And you do that by, for instance, hiding a part of the scene that is not being used. So for instance, if you want to bring the focus to the main character, you hide those characters that are not moving, that are not really doing anything else with the scene. You may choose to reveal something by zooming into a part of the scene that wouldn't be really visible if you didn't do so. Bring some details into life. So by doing so, you can create anticipation, like I try to do with my animation, or you can reveal details and direct attention towards what you want the viewer to pay attention to. And that leads to another point of view, which is the movement hierarchy. When you're animating a cinematic, every movement is very controlled, not only because you have to animate everything yourself, but because if you start moving everything at once, the focus of the animation that you just did, the focus of the cinematic, will be a bit confusing for someone that is viewing it for the first time and don't have the time to pay attention to every detail at once. Now there were things that were harder than I expected, and besides the patience and the amount of work that it takes to actually draw everything and make the cinematic look good and insist on it until it looks good, what I found the hardest was actually try to introduce VFX without breaking the cinematic, without making it too confusing. I noticed that when I tried to add too many lightning effects, because Zenitsu is a lightning character, the scene started getting a bit confusing in the sense that your eye were trying to track too many things. And considering that Zenitsu is a very fast character, if there are too many things for the viewer to pay attention to, then the most important part of the animation may not be noticed. And I noticed that the lightning effect was harming my ability to maintain the focus on the cinematic. This is most likely lack of skill on my part and lack of time as well to figure everything out and fine-tune everything. So in the end, I opted to completely remove the lightning effects and focus on actually making the animation good as I can, at least. Now next, I'm studying the correlation between FPS, frames on an animation, and how they work together in an engine. Because for what I want, there is no point in making all this if I'm not going to be able to use it in the future. And it's good to put everything that I do into practice. For the most part, every asset that I've used on my previous projects were not mine. I didn't design them. So they came with settings that I just used. I didn't have to come up with it. And that's a big change. I feel like at the moment, even though I know how it works, I feel like my knowledge about it is superficial. So that's it. See you on the next video. Bye-bye.